Rob, like I said, he sits in this very interesting cross section. So, aside from being a high school personal finance teacher, he also is the co-author of a curriculum, a financial education curriculum, and he's the founder of Simple Startup, which is a program for 10 to 18-year-olds to start their own businesses. So he's super into entrepreneurship for kids, which I am too. And then on top of that, he also wrote a kids book called M is for Money. So it's all of this stuff that's come together that I think is just a super interesting cross section, like I was saying. So Rob, let me ask you, what ages are the kids that you teach, and like, what's your opinion of the state of readiness, not just, of your kids, but just of high school kids?
My class is a math class that counts as a math credit, but it's a hybrid between personal finance and math. And I really just throw most of the math stuff out and I focus on finance and financial. And Maryland is one of these states that has a silver status when you talk about measuring financial literacy requirements in a state. A gold standard state is one where students have to take a single class of personal finance, so a full credit of it to graduate high school. A silver state, there's a half credit that is embedded somewhere else in another course to be able to graduate. So there's some financial literacy requirement. It's not great. And then bronze is usually that it's offered in the school, but not required. And then if you don't have a medal, you don't offer financial literacy at all. The number of states who are changing to gold standard is going up, which is wonderful to see. We're seeing states like Florida pass bills recently that are turning their state requirements around. So they're saying, no, you are going to have to take a full semester of personal finance to be able to graduate, which is awesome. We have states like New Jersey that have mandates in middle school and high, which I think is a much better standard and much more what we should all be achieving for.
Do you feel like high school is too late to be teaching this? You mentioned middle school. And then, of course, our program focuses even on elementary because we feel like that's something that needs to start in the home pretty early on. So what do you think about the timing of these courses being offered?
It's one of those ones where something is better than nothing. If we're going to pick a single time in a student's career to teach them about money, it probably is as close as possible to when they go out in the real world and start making big decisions with money. If there's more opportunity, just like you said, it should start at a much younger age. And that's what motivated me to write my children's book about money, is that I had my own son was born and I'm like, okay, there's going to be a better way to do this in terms of raising a child who is comfortable talking about money, is confident, understanding how it works, will want to make his own, will want to save, spend, invest, and give. So all of these things that we wish we were kind of doing as adults and we maybe strive to do now, why not start building those things in as kids when we are still forming habits and forming our mindsets and our own kind of personality around money? Because I'm sure I'm not sure if your audience does, most of our money habits are set between the ages of 7 to 9. So how you view money, how you use it, the habits you're going to build around it are pretty much set from a young age. And then you have to work to change those habits as you get older. So if you can start at a very young age, and I'm talking like 2 to 3 years old, like at 2 years old, my son and I are starting to talk about money. He's reading my kid's book. He's using money to go buy things that he actually wants.
How old is he now?
He's 3 right now.
3.
And my wife and I are just about to introduce an allowance because he's getting to that point now where he's asking us to buy things for him. And we don't want to keep doing that. We want to now start putting the money in his hands and let him start deciding what he wants to buy. So he can't have everything, but he can have something, and he has to now start making decisions about it.
I think, boom, we're done. I'm just going to hit replay on the last 90 seconds. Oh, we're just going to run that on a loop for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's really profound. I mean, and it's
spot on, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. But, why do you think parents don't do this, Rob? I mean, where's the gap? I know that without Alex direction for me, I still would not be really talking to my kids about money. I think I would just be fighting with them all the time about what they want and what I won't buy and will buy, and being that bad guy, good, nice mom versus bad guy. I don't know. Where's the gap? Why don't us parents know that inherently to start talking to our kids about money at that early age?
Oh gosh, there's so many reasons. So based on what I've read, what I've experienced, what I've heard from other parents, the first one is usually that we parent in a very similar style to how we were parented growing up. So unless you are someone who's identified that, the way my parents did it wasn't really great and I need to do something different, you're more than likely just going to repeat the same stuff again. So if you weren't brought up in a household where money was something you talked about, you may not do that in your own household, particularly if money is on the same level as things like drugs, sex, alcohol, politics, religion, where This is not a dinner table conversation. We don't really talk about that. It's rude, it's taboo, it makes people uncomfortable. If you are brought up with that same cultural mindset, it's very hard to break that and be like, oh, well, actually, yeah, we're going to start talking about money right now, especially if you feel uncomfortable with the thought of your kids asking you questions about money. Next up, you've got adults who aren't particularly financially literate themselves. There aren't that many of us out there who can say, hand on heart, we're doing amazing with our money and we are a shining light for kids to follow. So it's very hard to be that person who goes to your kids and say, look, I think this is what you should be doing with money, or this is how it works, when in fact, you don't really know how to do it yourself just yet, or you haven't been doing a great job with it. So it's a lot of different things. It's difficult, particularly when we didn't get a good education ourselves growing up as to how money works. You sort of have to just figure it out, cross your fingers that you didn't make too many bad mistakes in your 20s, and that you've learned enough since then to parent, and also that you know how to parent. I mean, it's not this natural thing that I thought was going to happen where my kid was born. I'm like, I will know what to do. It's just somehow innately going to come that I will know what to do.
Nope.
Instead,
you didn't get the instruction manual?
No, they didn't give me one at the hospital apparently, but I had to do a lot of learning. My wife and I decided we were going to look at parenting videos and courses and read books because we were raised one way and we say, well, we turned out okay, doesn't mean that there isn't a better way to do it.
But Rob, you flipped a switch somewhere, right? Because your upbringing was not in a money talking household. And then all of a sudden you said, okay, I'm going to do this. So what flipped the switch for you?
I was fortunate to be in a household where money wasn't brought up in a bad way. So there are plenty of students who I come across on a daily basis who are all too aware of the finances of their household because it's such a cause of stress in the household. They might be working to help support their families. They might be hearing fights or conversations about money, or very in tune to the fact that there isn't enough money going around. I was fortunate to not be in that scenario growing up. So I didn't know. There was some conversations I heard. My parents encouraged me to save money. Like I had a savings account when I was a kid, but it was sort of like you got birthday money and go put it in your savings account. Like that was pretty much where the conversation ended. I remember at one point in my childhood asking my dad about stocks. I heard about it somewhere. I could not tell you where, but I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I asked him about it. I was like, what is it? How does it work? Can I do this too? And he didn't know how to answer it. He didn't know at that time how to get a child involved in investing. And because that conversation dropped, I didn't start investing for probably another nearly 20 years, which is so sad when you think about compound interest and what could have been.
Right.
So when I started learning about money, I started realizing this can start from a young age. Time is your most valuable asset when it comes to building wealth, and also protecting yourself from making those bad mistakes that are very costly. And they're not super terrible things. It's just things like taking out too much student loans, buying a brand new car, buying too much house, partying too much, not saving when you should be, or potentially house hacking when you're getting that first home and you're not really tied down with a family or a relationship yet. Like just things that we could do differently that aren't huge but would make so much difference in the lives of kids and young adults growing up.